Okay, so let's get into some avatars. We're going to show a few methodologies of making avatars. As you can see in the syllabus, there are tons and tons of different free and paid software for making avatars. We're going to utilize Blender today as well. Blender's a free download. There's a link to that as well in the syllabus. So go ahead and open up Blender. And the first thing I like to do is, and this is just my preference, is to change the way I do my key mappings. So I am used to Maya, Sm4D, 3D Studio Max. I like to hold down Alt to navigate throughout the viewport. Um, Blender has its own key presses that don't really, or hotkeys that don't really match any other software in the world, and it definitely has to have a 3-button mouse to be able to be used. If I change industry compatible, it's a little bit more seamless for me. The downside is any tutorials you do where they say, "Oh, and then press Alt G," you're like, that doesn't work for me anymore because it's going to change all your keyboard shortcuts. Since I only do a few things in Blender, I just prefer to be able to navigate quickly. So long story short, I changed my input to industry compatible. You can always switch back and forth. So if you are doing a tutorial and you want to do the Blender key presses, you can switch back and forth. But for what we're doing today, I'm basically just navigating around and being able to see and identify different parts of an avatar created elsewhere. All right. So another thing that's worth noting is that you also have add-ons. Blender has tons and tons of add-ons, free or paid. We'll be using a bunch even today and in the coming weeks. So I have one add-on I'm going to add on today to show you that process as well. And yeah, let's dive into it. So the first thing we're going to use is Ready Player Me. I mentioned this in class. It's really the one of the easiest options for creating avatars. They now support over 1,000 different games and metaverses and all sorts of stuff. So it's a cross-platform avatar creations. It is cartoonish. It's kind of like Fortnite. It's definitely not going towards photoreal. But for right now, we're just starting off. This is only the third week of school. Let's go ahead or third week of this class. Let's just go ahead and do it because it's easy. So I'm gonna. You could either take a photo of yourself and it will try to create something from you. I'm going to just create an avatar based off of whichever hairstyle. I think that hairstyle is definitely. That's how I'm feeling today. And again, this is all on the web. There's no download of executable for the application, so we can change all sorts of features. We have let's see. First of all, it says customize. So right now we're doing, I think, skin tone. So we probably has real-time preview. All right, I'll just stick in the middle, and then I'm gonna move on. So now we're gonna look at the face shape. All right. So how do you want the chin to look? Or the cheeks, I guess, in this manner, and chin. All right. Eyes. We have different kinds of eyes. All right. Nose. Make it a little more narrow. And then lips. So very quick and easy to use. Moving on. Clothing. I'm just going to use. That looks great. Last days of summer. Okay. Looks like I could change hair, so I chose my character based off hair, but, there we go. And facial hair. That's an interesting look. I don't know anyone who looks like that. All right. Eye color. Cool. Eyebrows. Do you want to have any, glasses or anything like that? I'm actually going to take off glasses. There we go. Makeup. That's a bold look right there. There you go. It's a little more subtle. And then, you have little masks if you want to. We're going to be doing one of the features of Ready Player Me is that it comes with face tracking already built in. So let's not hide the face because we'll be using that in upcoming weeks. But we could do a hat if we wanted to. All right. So now that we're done creating this avatar, we're going to enter the hub. And as we're preparing our avatar. We can share it with other people, or we're just going to download it. Give it a moment. There's a list of other things you can import your character into. So down here is the download button, and we're going to download it, and then it should be in my downloads. Beautiful. So that was first avatar generation software. All right, ready to go. So let's do it. So it's a GLB file. Another reason why I'm using Blender is because GLB import is built into Blender. It's a plugin for Maya and Sima40 and other things, at least as of right now. So we can navigate to our downloads, and there it is, this string right here. It's a import. Okay, so some settings in Blender that I also like to do. We have F, which brings it to our forefront. It fills the full screen of our asset. You see there's some bones sticking out. If we actually want to see all the bones, we can go over to viewport display and say in front, and now we can always see the bones. I think it's also here. If we go to viewport display, it'll be in front. So there's two different places to put the bones in front. And then to navigate the viewports, we have right here wireframe, and then just quick shade, and then this is what it looks like with textures, just to make sure that the textures did import correctly. It will take a moment for those textures to load in. Again, Blender it does have real-time features, but it's not a real-time tool, so you have to let it do some things first. Okay, cool. Our character is in a pose. We will fix that when we move it to the mix mode for some animations. Other things worth noting is you have different modes, and here's where you add in geometry. What's cool about Blender is that not only are we just importing the model and saving it out, we can also change features should we want to because of the modeling tool, right? And then if we ever want to get into moving the skeleton around, we can go into pose mode, select the skeleton, rotate it, and you see that yes, the bones do make the geometry move. Great. Going back, edit would be to edit the mesh itself, and we have different modes. Like we have, if we select the geometry, like the head, we could probably edit some things there too, but we're not going to worry about it right now. We're just in object mode, and all we're doing today is exporting it again. So I didn't really do anything, just exporting it, and I'm going to show you how to correctly export assets. So first of all, we're going to come here to path mode and say copy. We want to copy the textures into the FBX, and then you have to check the box. That's a big thing that if you don't see your textures, that's what happened. You didn't say copy, and you didn't click the box. Other issues. If you've imported things in Unreal before, you might have seen it say like no smoothing groups. Make sure the smoothing is on faces and it won't give you that error. We don't have any animations, and we don't need to add any other bones to it. So that's the settings we need. I'm going to put it in my downloads, and I'm going to call this guy Ralph. Export. So GLB files are not recognized in Mixamo, and that's why we wanted to put it as FBX file. All right, so now Mixamo has been around since 2015. It is an Adobe product. Do they take care of it? No, they don't really take care of it. I wish they would add more features. It is going to get replaced unless they do something with it soon. But it's a great repository of characters and animations. You can obviously get characters here if you wanted to, but we wanted to make our own. This character that's already loaded in is actually something I stole from Fortnite. There's an application called Fmod that lets you, what's it called? Fmodel. Anyway, it lets you rip things out of Unreal games. We'll get into that another day. So the first thing I want to do is I want to put on a T-pose. Oh, I need to import it first. So let's go to characters, upload character, and we can drag it or select it. I have my downloads. Here, and Ralph is at the very top. It should work fine. It already has bones. Mixamo can add in, can rig characters, and I'll do that with the next avatar creation software. Looks like this worked fine. That's good news. The colors, textures should show up. because it should be imported in. If not, then we might have to just have faith that it's happening. All right. Here's a character. We'll find out if it has textures or not when we get it into Unreal. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in T-pose. I want my main character, my first import to always be a T-pose. So download FBX with skin, this first time with skin, and hit download. Cool. Let's take a look at our downloads. And now it's called T-pose. I'm actually going to call this one for Mixmo. And this one's just going to be called Ralph. And this is what I want to bring into Unreal. Cool. So I have my scene from last week here. I'm going to put this into Assets, and we're going to make a new folder called Skeletal Meshes. And I'm going to make a folder for Ralph. And inside the folder for Ralph, I can also make another folder for animations, so I keep them separate. And let's go ahead and import Ralph in the T-pose. So downloads and Ralph. We don't have a skeleton already. That'll become something we do when we get the animations. I think the default should be fine, except for underneath the advanced. You see I'll twirl that down. I'm going to say use frame 0 and then import morph targets. Not essentially important right now, but it will be later. It's a good habit to get into. This is bringing in the facial animation features. Import all, doesn't matter. We don't have any animations yet, so import all. Let's see what it looks like. These are warnings, not errors, so we're fine. And let's take a look at Ralph. Wait for the shaders to compile. Looks like it has some textures, but not all textures. Has eyes. That's unfortunate. Yeah, you see no textures came in. I could be... Let's see. Let's hack this open. Let's just see if the textures came in, or I exported correctly. So we're going to put it onto Ralph, and basically we're bringing in that animation of being in an A pose. Let's try it. All right. Let's bring this back up. We're already off the rails. Let's just bring it in like this, and then make sure, great, import. So it brings in eyes, but doesn't bring anything else in. Let's go back to Blender and export one more time. And Blender. All right, so everything's here, and we're going to select the whole thing, File, Export, FBX, it's going to be Ralph for Mixmo, and we're going to copy the DAD. I think that when we had this issue last semester, it was because it was just a version of Blender, which is, I know, incredibly frustrating. But let's face, right, okay, let's see again. We could probably even just find out by importing them back in and seeing what happened. Nice. Yes. So Blender is not exporting correctly. I'm using Blender 3.1.2. So if you're having this issue, you can download an older version of Blender. This is just the most recent one. It's not really a problem because when you import FBXs, it actually strips the PNGs, or sorry, the texture files sometimes to these, because it's not exporting at all. Okay. And GLB. What we'll do is we'll start make human, and I'll install a different version of Blender. Let's see if I already have the 2 versions. Who knows? Alright, so this is an older version of Blender, 2.93.6. Should be fine. Also, you might notice that my project doesn't start off with a light and a camera. What I do is I delete those objects, and then you come down here to defaults. You say save startup file, and then it won't have that extra junk you have to delete every single time. Let me bring in the GLB file from my downloads. We'll have to find the actual downloads folder. Great. And then I'm going to add this as a bookmark. So I have this. I have multi-download folders. Let's import this in. Again, everything's fine. All right, it has textures now. And now I'm going to export. Same thing. I'm going to make sure I copy it into here. I don't need to make any transform changes. Geometry, we want to make sure it's face. And I take off modifiers. We don't have any modifiers. We don't need to add any bones. And we don't have any animation. So now we're going to call this one Ralph Miximo. We don't have either of these. Great. And then let's go back to Mixmo. We're going to upload a character again. Go to my downloads. Oops. To my downloads. Find Ralph Mixmo. Let's try again. Still a very small file, so I feel like it doesn't have PNGs in there. We'll see. Yay! See, you have to have a sense of humor for all this stuff. It's all crazy. But it looks like the eyes didn't import this time, so who knows? We'll be able to manipulate this a little bit later, but let's put it in T-pose. And put download, and again, everything's there. It's going to give me the file called T-pose, which I'm going to rename Ralph. All right, back to Unreal, back to this Ralph. Delete. Yes, delete all, and no skeleton. We're not going to apply anything to a skeleton. We're going to bring in our own skeleton. Frame 0 as reference pose, import morph targets, and voila, you see that there's actually textures that are inside of our materials. If we open up Ralph, we see that we have actual textures. To a degree. Looks like the old head is... he needs to get some sun for sure. So, this is the skeletal mesh editor, and you see right here, if we did care, we have mouth open, so we can do face stuff. We're not going to do that for this week. But I want to look at my asset details, and let's go look at the hair. So the sample it's using is hair. And it just has color right there. So let's give it a better color. Like brown or orange. There you go. And then if we want to find out which one is the body, we could say isolate. There it is. It's skin. And it just has no color. Let's make sure. I think we want this base color to be in there. So we're going to take the skin, texture, throw it in, and put this one instead. All right, let's take a look. All right, not so bad. Crazy eyeballs. Was there one for the hair? Let's see. No, there was no texture for the hair. Okay, so we just changed the color. And then let's save all. Great. So now we have our character ready to go, and we're going to add some animations for Mixamo. So Mixamo. And then it doesn't really matter for right now. I mean, I can look at my scene and see what it looks like. So let's. It was basically, let's see if we have swimming. Cool. I like all these. Let's go ahead and say down. And we're going to do in place for right now. Download. And we don't need skin anymore. We just need the data. Without skin. So this will be a much smaller file. Alright, let's do the other one. This one doesn't have an in place option, but it's just going to loop. It's fine. Without skin. Great. Cool. Let's go back to animations folder, and then to our downloads, treading, swimming, boom. Let's bring them in. And this time we're going to choose to apply them all to Ralph's skeleton. We do not want to have a bunch of different skeletons. I mean, we wouldn't be able to import it anyway because there's no skeleton. There's no mesh data on this, so it has to be applied to a skeleton. But if we had downloaded it with skin, we would still want to apply it to the one that already exists. We don't want to have a bunch of different models for each animation because then we can't blend between them later on. They all need to be on the one skeleton. So one skeleton can have many, many, many animations that drive it. When you get really sophisticated, you can make every single character in your project just use one skeleton, and then every character can use every character's animation. We won't go that far for right now, but that's kind of the way that Unreal's set up, is that you can retarget any skeleton to any skeleton, and everyone can share everyone's animations. There we go. It looks really great. Let's find my map from last time. So I'm going to filter by levels, and I did one with an ocean. Yeah, I remember that ocean being a little heavy. It's taken a little while. Maybe while this is happening, all we're going to do is throw in our animations into the scene for our screenshots or for our screen recording. But I'm going to go ahead and go to the other avatar creator software, which is called Make Human. So Make Human is an open source tool from Carnegie Mellon. It doesn't have a photoreal, it doesn't have a really great stylized look, but again, we're just trying to play around. What is cool about Make Human is that being an open source community-led project, there's tons and tons of assets that people make and upload to the database. If you come over to the community tab, and then you at the bottom it'll say synchronize, or over here it'll say synchronize, you can basically download tons and tons and tons of different assets. They will cause problems. Like you're going to have, like, some of them aren't really well made and whatever, but it is kind of fun. And as long as you have something like Blender, you can always fix any of those issues. So like, here's some extra teeth, right? Or if I want to have new clothes, which is a good one to have, you can update list, and you see tons and tons of clothes. And when you download them, they'll actually be a part of. Well, let's just show you. It'll be part of the software. It'll be an additional option, right? So we have. Let's fishnet, and yes, there is also genitalia and in these user options. So you might see a little nudity. Again, that's an option. I'm also going to be using a plugin in a second, so I'm going to make sure that my socket is accepting connections. And then over in mass produce, this is actually a crowd generator. You can generate like 100 characters with a click of a button. So if you want to mess around with having tons of characters, again, this is where you might want to have everyone share one skeleton. That way they can all share the same animations. But I'm going to go now just to create. So let's first start with, are we going to load, save, or export? I'm going to start off, this is what it will look like. You have a character in here, and you can change gender. Again, gender is on a slider. Age is on a slider, right, all the way down to being a baby. How muscular, how much they weigh. And then even, you can see that we have these ethnicity sliders, and as I move one, you're going to be so Caucasian and not as much African Asian. Interesting. Obviously, this is its own dialogue here. You can have having race and gender on a slider. This is a very anemic looking character. If I want to jump ahead, I can always just say random, and we can generate a random character. Cool. So again, you can increase and decrease breast sizes. And then you also have genitals, if you really care. The face features, like, it's all in sliders, right? All these features, and then you can say head size, forehead size, right? So how much is it bulge, and how much does it scale vertically, right? Flat top, all these things, nose size, all the features on the right side. We'll give you sliders on the left side. Some torso features. Stomach, do we want to have, there we go, get some, again, pregnancy, navel bump, navel position. So everything is adjustable. Cool. And then, so we're done with this. We can now go to the geometries. And this is bringing in clothes. You see here's that dress that I downloaded. We also have the Daisy Dukes. Let's see, let's turn that one off, and we'll just do this outfit. Seems fine for right now. Eyes, low poly is fine. Hair, let's go for short hair. Teeth, regular teeth. No special topography is fine. Eyebrows, we want eyebrows, otherwise it looks weird. Eyelashes, sure, why not? And then tongue, let's give it a tongue. Great. And then we can pose it, right? So we can add a skeleton. We're not going to add a skeleton here. We're going to show how you can do skeletons inside of Mixamo. But I am going to put it in a T-pose to make it easy to rig. And then, that's good enough for me. So when you install Make Human, it has some add-ons in here. So Make Human, it says add-ons for Blender. And one of them is called Make Human plugin for Blender. So in Blender, let's go ahead. I'm going to save this one as a Blender file so I can come back to it should I need to. So let's go down to Downloads, and this will be a .blend file. So we'll say Ralph. Always save these Blender files so you can come back and edit it as you go along. You can always re-import it to Unreal, and it won't. You can override it and make global changes to your avatar. So I'm going to say new scene, and I'm going to go to Preferences, Add-ons, and then I can install the Make Human plugin for Blender. I already have, but to show you how to install plugins, I'm going to actually install another plugin that I'll show you what it does in a second. If you go to Make Human's website, Make Human Community, you can look at the downloads, and then you go to the plugins. There's this new plugin called MPFB2. I think I already downloaded it. MPFB2 latest. Install. It's a big one. It's 40 megabytes. It's pretty big for one of these things. So give it a second. Basically, it's copying it over to a folder inside of Blender where all the Python scripts are. And keep on giving it a moment. It's thinking. At least I think it's thinking. We might come back to that. Let's see. So when you have your add-ons, install, still thinking. Let's try that one more time. Or actually, let's see this. So add-ons get put over here to this little thing right here. This little caret right here on the right side. And in fact, I don't have any add-ons anymore, so let's not do that one. Let's come back to our Blender ones, though. Boom, install, and then turn it on. You see it added it over here. So what we could do here is, because we open up the socket on our community tab, we can now not have to worry about importing, exporting. We just say import human. And there is our character. To a degree. The texture is a little different. But it's one way of bypassing. And then we make changes with Make Human. Like, for instance, if we change clothes, obviously flawed. Let us clear and try one more time. Import. There we go. We're in the suit. Didn't bring over the texture files. Cool. So that is an option. There's also this plugin that I was trying to show you actually puts Make Human inside of Blender, so you're actually not have to use Make Human at all anymore. And I'll give it one more shot. Before we move on. That looks more promising. says installed. There it is. Cool. So now we can actually say new. Here's all of make human. All right, so we can create human. Apply assets. All right. So we have to install the user data. But this is another kind of fun thing we can get into. We can do rigs. Cool. So we also have that option. The reason I like to bring it into Blender is because you can just make sure the scale is right. You know, when you add like a cube, this cube is like 6 feet tall, and you can see that the character is in the right scale. Sometimes things are off by like a factor of like hundreds, and so this is a good you know, test to make sure that, you know, this is like, I think 6'6", so our character's like 5'8". This makes sense and scale. Cool. I can export this without a mesh as an OBJ because it doesn't have a without a skeleton, or I could do FBX, and this can be Doug, and I don't have to worry about some of the other things because I don't have the skeleton. I will say face only, and fine. Alright, so this will go down to my downloads too. Export Doug. Doug without clothes, because we didn't actually load in any of these assets yet. I'll have to figure out how to do that. Cool. So now this Doug does not have a rig, so I'll show you how to do that. Mixamo, upload character, downloads, Doug, go Doug. Or we can take this character, export him, as an FBX. And this can be Bobby. Bobby's also going to go into my downloads. Yeah, we're not going to worry about that. Let's upload Bobby instead. That was helper geometry. It's like collisions and stuff like that. We're getting into no man's land. Again, this is, you know, you have to have a kind of sense of humor for all this stuff because these pipelines break all the time. I guess I called him exports, not Bobby. Bobby for mix. So textures didn't come through. Again, I can apply textures later on. If I want to make sure that it has textures, there's some other approaches I can do. One thing is to actually zip it up. Let's see if that works. And the other thing would be to export it as an OBJ. Which is just 3D model without any of the other FBX features. So that didn't work, but let's take these two, zip them together, upload, Just not meant to be. All right. Chin. Wrists. Elbows. Knees. Groin. What's nice about this is that it does fingers, so but you can also have various fidelity of fingers and stuff. And just going through and analyzing the body parts and identifying which ones go where. Cool, so obviously we want T-pose first. Download with skin. And then this one would be called Bobby. Inside of Unreal. We were having some ocean issues last time. If you go into landscape mode, what we didn't do was we didn't check enable edit layers. And I think that's why it wasn't playing happy with us. So we can create a new one. And get rid of the other landscape. That looks much better. So I'm holding down Shift to make it go in deeper. Because I'm sculpting mode. Back to select mode. But I should also be able to bring up. Bring down the ocean. Right, or if I want to, I can go over to here and just add in a lake so it's not so heavy. Right, so now we're a little lake, go underwater, cool. I lost some of the things I was painting, that's fine. They're all still here. But let's just worry about our character right now. But I wanted to show that enable edit layers because that was what was actually causing some issues. Fill. Yes, paint all of them. Let's make it much bigger. Boink. There we go. Crazy. Let's undo and just say fill. I was not going to do it that way. That would be hilarious. Paint. Paint density 0.1. Nice. We gotta roll back. So let's bring in Bobby. And again, we don't want to apply it to a skeleton. We're going to bring in its own skeleton. Great. T-pose, blah, blah, blah. Import. So surprise, surprise. Bobby actually has the textures after all. Mix mode just wasn't showing it because they were too heavy for it to show in real time. So everything was fine by exporting it by an OBJ. Exporting OBJ in FBX do have slightly different looks, especially when it comes to the hair and the eyebrows. I'm going to make this camera go a little slower. You see that these eyelashes are a little thick. So if we go over to we can that's eyebrows. We could take out, and we can see what this texture is. And see it has an alpha there. So we're going to change the material to be translucent. And then we can use the alpha for the opacity. Alright, save that. A little more subtle, right? What is isolate? That's the hair. Probably do that for the hair too, right? Make it translucent. Take the A for alpha. Cool. The hair looks a little more interesting. But I definitely want to get those eyelashes. Is that... There they are. Translucent. Alpha goes in opacity. And does have a very flat head. But yeah, he's looking a little better there. A little pale on the old skin. Maybe give it a little more rosy tint. And again, we can make this an instance like I showed in class last week, and then we can drive it real time, so we can be looking at it if we want to. So, look at Bobby. It looks much better though. Let's navigate to the skin. We'll make an instance. Go back to Bobby. Bring in that instance. And now, in real time, we can change that. Alright, and that's a little bit easier to dial in. Oh. Alright, let's save all. And let's give Bobby some motions. Bobby is going to be, let's say, is he playing football? Do we have that? There we go, download. And we don't need skin. Some of these, like I think there's some fighting sequences where they actually match each other. So if I won, something to look at, but I think they have like matching, you know, stuff. Anyway, so we downloaded that. That's all we need for right now. Let's bring in, make a folder for Bobby. Animations. And there we go. So for right now, okay, so we're gonna make this on Bobby, and then that's everything else is good. So for now, we're just gonna throw in the animation. That's the easiest way to get the animation in. You can bring in the skeletal mesh and then apply the animation, but this is just one step quicker. right, so bring it in. We need to get out of the foliage mode. There we go. One thing we see is the scale is off on Bobby. That's fine. We can just adjust it here. And that was in our export settings. Alright. And then Bobby needs a friend. Who's treading water. Cool. And then if we want to preview it before we hit play, like if we hit play, we get to see the animations working, right? One thing I noticed is doing that auto eye adaptation. Let's find our post-processing. We don't have one. That's why. Post-processing volume. And then make sure that it is infinite. Right, so it takes over the entire world. And then we're going to go over to exposure, lock in brightness at 1, and then we can take this exposure compensation to actually dial in the setting we want. There we go. So now when I hit play, it'll be that brightness. Cool. Now, one quick thing I do, and we'll do this more and more, if you want to add a component, so you can go to add, and you type in a thing called live link skeleton, or it's called skeleton. Live link isn't turned on yet. Okay, so I'm not worried about it, but there's a way of previewing the animations without hitting play. So we hit play, alright, or we can say simulate, and then we can kind of move things around if we want to still place things. We're like, oh, okay, there's where we go, right? And stop, and then we have to remember to place it back there. Or, let's try something. Simulate, move it, come over to its transform location, say copy, hit stop, and then we can say paste. And there it is. So that's a way of being able to place things between simulate mode. Cool. That's everything for today. I mean, this was a long way of about it, but essentially all we're doing is creating an avatar, getting some animation from Mixmo that makes sense for our world, bringing it in, and then that's it. All right.